All right. Well, in the interest of time, because I know that the NSG team has a lot of great content here to share, I'll go ahead and kick it off and then I'll monitor for anybody else here joining. Um, but today we're here to go through this awesome framework that the NSG team has put together from helping some folks in different industries adopt AI. It's a great framework because it covers everything from like data readiness and analysis through to like change management, through to execution. Thank you, Ben. The agenda today. So, starting off first and foremost with just understanding AI, a few just basic sort of, I'll say, ways to ground us in the understanding of AI and like what we need to kind of like think about as we go through. Um, Obviously, overcoming some areas of concern because we all have those. Some value outcomes for ROI success. And I love that Amanda put it that way because I think you'll see from process systems, use cases, what that looks like. And then obviously the considerations we want to keep in mind from like a compliance and audit perspective. And we'll save some time at the end for some Q&A. If you guys have questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, and I'll monitor those for the end. But that being said, for those of you whom I don't know, I am M. Daigle. I founded OTTO-MATES and the Chief Automation Officer over there. If you're joining, hopefully you've gone through, joined the new Circle community. I know it's a change. It's difficult for everyone, but I'm going to be sending out some like tips and stuff so you don't feel like it's yet another place to have to monitor. But I think it's going to be a really great platform for us to be able to have a lot of information and resources all in a single platform for us all. And so super excited. NSG is a great partner of ours. I will let everybody here introduce themselves and then we'll go through the slides. But they are also in the community as well. And so always a great resource if you guys have any questions as well. So with that, Ben, I'll pass it over to you to intro.
Perfect. Thanks, Sam. Always a pleasure to be on here with you guys. So yeah, Ben Appa. I'm a partner at Northlight Solution Group, as well as I run delivery services. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for really the last 17 years, but my primary focus is around lead to cash processes. We do a lot of agnostic work around identifying ways to optimize, reframe, build, release, and transform across the gamut of really lead to cash processes. So excited to talk to you about what that means for AI and how AI is an impactful tool set and how it's not so daunting to take on as we move forward. So pass it over to you, Amanda.
Thank you, Ben. Good morning, afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be back here on the Automate stage. Em and I go way back, and I'm really excited to be able to collaborate on some of these key topics that are top of mind. A little bit about myself. I'm an account director here at Northlight Solutions Group. My background is in finance, revenue accounting, operations, and digital transformation. So I've been in the space from a 360 point of view, if you will, having been the accountant that went from manual to automation, having gone through a series of technologies, learning how to really strategically put together a plan to adopt automation, especially in the quote to cash space, and being in the customer success space, really learning from customers, prospects, clients about what's top of mind for them, what are some challenges, what are ways that they can continue to evolve and maximize their technology. So I'm very excited to be here with the group and help navigate the conversation today. With that, I'll pass it over to Rajiv.
Thanks, Amanda. Hey, everyone. This is Rajiv. I'm also completely new here. First of all, I work as the Director of Technical Solutions at Northlight. I bring over 15 years of experience in technology consulting and cloud strategy. Over the years, I have worked with some leading brands such as Apple, Disney, Google, Salesforce, and many more. And most recently, I worked directly with Salesforce to architect and build several products in the AI solutions, which are already being launched on the company website. Super excited to be here and looking forward to this session and collaborating with you all. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think we're ready to get started.
Yeah.
As Evan mentioned, as part of the agenda, we're going to cover a high-level overview of of AI, right? And really just some of the basic terms and knowledge. Let's face it, everyone knows a little bit of something about AI, whether you've read news articles about it or you've seen random reels on social media of satire, deep fakes, and all the random other fun goodies. Or maybe you've actually started using AI tools like ChatGPT or Gemini. But that said, we're really looking at AI through a little bit of a different lens today. We'll frame our definitions in that light, how it could help me in my career or how it could help me with my business, right? Those are the simplest terms that we've come here to address today. Make sure you're comfortable with understanding that, and it's not such, as I mentioned, such a daunting task to take on in this day and age. So looking at it through that lens, I think most folks today would say they don't know where to start, right? Like that's at least a lot of what we face for those people that haven't already gotten on board and aren't maybe like they're not playing around a lot with a lot of the AI apps and we're not using it in our everyday business life. How can I use AI and what will it do to help me? So the truth is, we're not going to answer that in a few minutes with some quick definitions, but what we can say to you is start with data. Specifically data science, it gives you tools that AI can model its interactions with. It can, really include business site insights, raw data and thematic conclusions that might lead to predictive analytics. It might help you expose historical analytics or trends that you might not have already been aware of, right? So you'll hear us talk quite a bit about data today, not just because it's crucial to AI success, but also because we often see it as one of the biggest hurdles from our customers' perspective. My data is not in the right place, so what do I do with it, and how can I even explore AI, right? So with that, we need to click into data one step further, really to better understand the two key types of data categories that we use to drive AI execution. There's structured and unstructured data are the really kind of the two buckets that we put them into. And structured data is really everything we all know and have come to love in our careers, especially as RevOps or business professionals. Think of things like tables, spreadsheets, data repositories that store insights in a very organized fashion, usually rows and columns with fields that have, data definitions against them. I mean, it sounds great, it sounds boring, but if you have this data available to you and you feel confident in your level of trust in this data, obviously it's a powerful tool in so many ways. But that's really where the root of our problem is, accessing dependable data, right? Everybody's at a different level of maturity with their business. And that really leads to another category of data that's often overlooked as a useful source for AI, and that's unstructured data. It may be messy in definition, but it's really chock full of insights that can be powerful. So think of unformatted data like emails to and from a customer. Think of recorded messages or audio. Think of document scans or PDFs, like a signed agreement that's stored, in a system or in a folder. So we'll talk a little bit more about this later, but remember that unstructured data can be a very impactful source for data and AI, right? So once you define your data source, we use machine learning to consume and assess the data, having it drive informed outcomes and learning from a continuously improving wealth of data insights. So under the covers of machine learning is a bonus term you may have heard of. You don't need to remember it, but something called a large language model, or LLM. So we won't get into all the gory technical details, but suffice it to say, this is one of the core elements of what makes AI special in rationalizing inputs, as well as providing overall autonomous thinking. So the framework is so central and core to efficiency in AI that many businesses that really truly capitalize on AI today, they use multiple machine learning tool sets. They take advantage of strengths and specialized focuses across different tool sets that maybe are specifically built or better built around the purpose of their AI objectives. But that said, once you give purpose to your AI tool set, you begin to identify objects, which we'll talk about in a moment, and you begin to identify the types of AI solutions that you could be building, such as generative, which some of you may have heard, and for most of you that use like ChatGPT or any of those tools, like you probably have gone in and tried to see, hey, how can I generate something from this? A photo, an image, a response to a business assignment or a business task, whatever it may be, an email. The other one is agentic AI, right? So when we talk about agentic AI, it really provides shades of generative AI output, but it serves an extended purpose. I like to call it autonomous thinking. It reasons with data and it has access to the inputs that you've provided it to make informed decisions. And these decisions are independent, really, of human oversight. It's also adaptive enough to carry on conversation. It provides you user prompts with things that are essentially questions, looking for input, that makes agentic AI powerful enough to perform business tasks on behalf of someone, right? Call it a persona or somebody that works within a company, a specific business role, sales ops, deal desk agent, right? So I promise we'll relate all this to real world examples soon. But that said, because of the power and efficiency and broad application to real world business scenarios, agentic AI really is going to make up much of what we're discussing today. And that's how agents or AI agents can act autonomously with your day-to-day lives. They become a fixture of your organization. They really add material efficiency to so many processes. Sounds like a lot. Trust me, it's not as daunting as it sounds.
That's right, Ben. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you opening up with that overview because, as you know, we've heard a lot about AI tools, AI solutions in the last year, in the last 2 years, and companies are really coming around to try to understand how it can add value to their internal operations as well as customer-facing products. So as we move on from this and kind of just coming back to some of the areas of concern, as you know, technology evolves faster than most organizations can really adapt. So what I would love to hear is what advice can you share with those who are starting from a place of transformation fatigue, but have AI mandates about overcoming operational hurdles and identifying the right solution for their business?
That's great. Yeah, so this really is a slide that we prepared to speak to a lot of that, and it's a lot of what I just said. Like, is AI in reach, right? It's so common for us, especially to hear you said transformation fatigue, right? We hear these things a lot. We just spent all this time releasing this platform, or I have all these data problems that I'm still trying to fix and solve, and I don't want to go through more optimization just to use AI. We hear a lot of questions around how long will this take to clean my data up so I can use AI? Along with the pressure of staying ahead of competition, we hear things like we have to do AI. My C-suite wants it. They want it today, tomorrow, yesterday, or they want it ahead of our competitors, right? And in some cases, we're actually even seeing some federal agencies or local jurisdictions, public agencies, they're issuing AI mandates. So you say to yourself, right, like, I get it. We need to work on this. We need to identify and adopt solutions that will accelerate and differentiate, that will comply. But we also know that it needs to be secure, right? So what are some of the risks of AI that I need to be considerate of? So I'm a sci-fi guy and a sucker for Back to the Future, so I had to make a reference here. But really, we are constantly feeling that heavy weight that you feel when you think of AI and what it might take to implement. And these are all, very valid, rational thoughts, topics that we're going to address today in some greater detail as we go on. But we'll start high level for now, and really we're going to start with the most logical place first, the beginning, right? So the first step forging ahead is identifying business value outcomes. Often these are going to be driven by some sort of ROI success, like, hey, I'll save this much time, which equates to this much more in margin, right? Or sometimes it's a qualitative outcome, like I'm saving my customers time, and they may not have to do as much on their side and doesn't have as much immediate impact on my revenue, but it has a direct impact on customer experience and market differentiation. So my strong suggestion really with all that is to say, spend a little bit of time going through these thought exercises, maybe make it a series of a couple of workshops with different stakeholders, put some shape to the work you're going to be doing so you're comfortable with why you're even doing this. And those are the sorts of things that you can invest in now, right? Before you even spend money, before you even look at systems. After you begin, really with the ideation phase, I guess we'll call it. You move on to things like selecting processes and looking at the systems involved and identifying gaps that are associated to those objectives, right? Those things that you've identified as business value outcomes. So what systems do we use today that drive outcome? What processes might we need to address this? And by way of all of that, what data is important to this exercise? And really, once you answer some of these questions, you're going to begin to identify opportunities. Opportunities for implementing AI, for adding efficiency, all of which we'll get into more details on later over some examples. But this is where it gets exciting. It's just making sure, all of this aligns to your company's broader go-to-market strategy and is really going to make an impact in how you accelerate to market. Less exciting, but still necessary is around security, risk, and compliance, right? So, and again, we'll repeat some of this as we go, and it's just to make sure, it's really these four simple kind of bullets that are a big part of the drivers behind the framework. But look at security and testing as a parallel work stream. It's embedded in your execution approach. It's not an afterthought, right? Like you identify someone or maybe a few someones that own this as you go through the ideation and the implementation of your AI solutions. They're responsible for owning security reviews, documentation of the solution, impact and communication for your users, and just validating compliance with any local or sector-based regulations, with which there's not a great degree today per se, but we're going to talk about some of that a little bit as well. And lastly, remember to take a measured approach that helps you to realize value sooner, right? So don't be afraid to use some of your data where it is now. I think this is probably one of the biggest things that you'll hear me emphasize. Don't forget that unstructured data can be a valuable tool in your AI frameworks today, and we all have unstructured data. Every single business operates on unstructured data today, unless you're living in a cave and you're doing business via pigeon carrier, right? We have forms of unstructured data that we can start using to drive efficiency. That's over to you, Amanda.
I think we have a few exercises, kind of like how to envision what that looks like, right? What are some of the questions that we can ask, that companies can ask themselves to really kind of tee up some of the starting point that you just described?
Good catch. Okay, so yeah, some questions. We did kind of, so this is one of those things where like I put myself in the shoes of the customers we face. They don't know where to start or they're stuck, right? We hear plenty often this theme of just trying to figure out how AI can help us, and is it something we could even do now? We know implementing AI solutions is more than just coming up with ideas on where to use it. It's oftentimes we see folks stuck because they're trying to find use cases they know they can implement against, use cases that align to where their data is. That's not wrong, right? But it's just not the approach we found most successful. So separate these exercises. Use this quick focus exercise to vision, to ideate how AI can help you in a materially impactful way. So if you're stuck, get unstuck by asking yourself these very basic questions about your team, your company's strengths and weaknesses. So what are the biggest pain points? And where do you spend most of your time, right? Where does your team spend most of their time? Oftentimes this is enough to start with, really. I'm sure you hear examples all of the time. Processing an order takes too long because the sales agreement doesn't match what was entered into the system. We have to reconcile the contracts with the opportunity or the quote. It takes too long to build a quote. Whatever the examples, right? Add them to a list and then try and quantify their impact where you can to help prioritize. Another question that's sometimes helpful is just more along the lines of what's most repetitive? What are the things that you haven't automated yet because your processes aren't locked down? You're not at that level of maturity yet. And so automation maybe just won't entirely work yet, right? For example, I have to set up our revenue schedules manually. They vary too much from deal to deal, and the performance obligations are only clear in the PDF document. Every time I want to extend a contract, I need to take 10 steps to complete it, right? More good use cases. Lastly, and I take pride in this one because we really have tried to leverage AI ourselves as we go to market with what we do, which is help companies with lead to cash solutions, right? We've had to identify, do we have folks that have blind spots in certain areas? Like they understand process and domain inside and out, but they need to lean on a developer to build something, right? So, example, I've got folks that are great at marketing, but they can't manage the technical burden of building web and digital content. New product releases require a technical skill set to fully set up in our sales and finance tools. So these are all areas that AI is bridging gaps in the real world for our customers. And really just a sample of some more of the ideas that you might cook up with these quick focus exercises across your team.
Great. Thanks, Ben. And kind of building on what you already started speaking to, for those embarking on this journey for the first time, let's break down the business processes and systems where we've seen AI tools can add value across industries with some use cases.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a nice segue from our quick focus exercises. Let's elaborate on ways where AI helps in some of those areas. We talked about marketing blind spots, right? And maybe generating content through your agents. But what about using an agent, a marketing agent, if you will, to personalize the messages in an email campaign? What about using an agent to enrich your current leads with company and market news from various sources, and then using that to tailor your marketing campaigns even further? And then really, if you think about it, just like stepping through the lead to cash processes, they will organically surface not only some obvious pain points, but really some pretty cool business accelerators. Let's use sales really, I think, as a good key illustration. With an agent that can be built without a particularly reliable foundation of structured data, right? Assuming like maybe my data is not super mature, maybe it's not all in my CRM, maybe I have disparate sales tools or CRMs, right? But rather, maybe using a lot of valuable insight-rich unstructured data, right? Taking an example where you have an opportunity that sales is qualifying. Email and Slack messages back and forth have revealed a need for a specific product. And if you're lucky, even budget, right? So a sales agent that has access to unstructured data knows this, might suggest you update the opportunity stage, fill in the qualification details. And next, your agent might even ask if you'd like me to build a quote with those products, maintain the price point that you've captured. Before you know it, you've used a series of unstructured data foundations to optimize the pipeline forecast and accelerate the quoting cycle. Really getting cool from there, though, let's give your agent access to our sales collateral, white papers, past closed won proposals of a similar profile. Now go ahead and tell your agent to generate me a draft proposal. Your sales agent's response, sure, I can do that. Should we submit this deal for approval first? Right? So you guys are in RevOps. How cool is that? We're driving analytics, we're driving process efficiency, and we're driving governance at the sales cycle level. Sales can focus on more volume of deals, more hands-on, more personal calls, messaging where AI doesn't entirely bridge the gaps, and let AI take care of all the stuff it can do, where your data is at today. One other example from the previous slide, we talked about pains in reconciling contract details with the deal cycle inputs and outcomes. So this happens pretty commonly when maybe your quoting processes and systems aren't super standardized and governed, or maybe even fully stood up, right? This is another area where AI can help you today. Past AI tool sets did not have the capability to consume unstructured data like PDFs in a very efficient and applicable way. Harkening back to OCR days, it's like, yeah, it did some stuff, it did it okay. Feeding that into any kind of AI engine or even automation engine was extremely difficult. Today, you could take that use case that we brainstormed on and then action a plan to ensure that unstructured data, those PDF files, are saved in your CRM or in some sort of file repository that your AI engine has access to retrieve. We leverage AI to scan the document for product tables and pricing, to scan for term lengths and maybe even payment terms that are tied to service obligations. All of a sudden, this unstructured data is gold to processing the order, right? It's an accelerant to fulfillment and back office operations. We can decide just to surface that data to users that need it, or even to act on it by drafting a fulfillment order and sending notifications to all the pertinent parties. So as you can see, I mean, it's very cool stuff that I geek out on, right? That I know we would have just begged for even just a few years ago and never would have thought was possible 10 years ago. And of course, understanding the processes and data, you can leverage in AI success. That's really only half the battle. We still have to consider systems. So this is, again, an area, I encourage you to take a cautious and measured consideration for. Don't feel the need to go out and vet a bunch of systems right away. Making super like heavy investments out of the gate, and just going through all of the platform fit gaps and like that stuff's important, and there's a time for that. But look at your existing tech stack. Do you use Google already? They have Gemini, Salesforce. Many of us familiar, I mean, me especially, but many of us, in the business world, it's really our wheelhouse. And so we've done some groundbreaking work with things like Agentforce and Data Cloud. Oracle, again, very common in our ecosystem. All have very extensible tool sets that can transcend, the platforms that you really just work on day in, day out, and pull in other data sources, other machine learning engines to really drive AI success. I just mentioned Agentforce and Data Cloud. Data Cloud is a good example of a hyperscale data solution that allows for super efficient, hyper-performant data processing. So tapping into sources across various sets of unstructured and structured data. Amazon is another really good example. AWS has a series of different, obviously, data surfaces, but also engines that drive ML and machine learning and large language models and things of that sort. Google, Microsoft, et cetera. And then really, as you look further forward to mature your AI tech stack, you can consider other AI engines to incorporate or enrich target outcomes of your AI success journey. This becomes useful when we start to look at industry-specific use cases, as we've highlighted down below. So some of those cases you can get by just fine with light enhancement of your existing tech stack. For instance, we built agents on the Salesforce platform to enrich usability and efficiency across HLS, high tech, other sectors, focusing on retrieval of like their industry standard data models, their account structure frameworks, their data sources, and then tailoring the underlying theme to match industry terms and personas. All things that are, much more feasible, like I said, than in days past, years past. Yeah,
Awesome.
exciting. Yeah.
Thank you, Ben. No, and I really love the way that the use cases are broken out in this slide. Of course, we're going to be able to share a copy of these with anyone that registered and beyond. But oftentimes, the biggest hurdle for people is just trying to visualize, where does AI add value in my day-to-day? And this is why we wanted to break it out in the context of processes and systems as well. But equally important to that, when companies invest in AI solutions, there are key considerations such as cost, risk, and of course, compliance that weigh on their decision. And we often see technology purchases become shelfware due to the operational and financial factors. And to prevent that, we wanted to also touch up on some common hurdles and how to overcome those as it relates to these key considerations. So why don't we go there next?
Yeah, so let's start with some of the cost and risk considerations. So for one thing, your AI platforms, really, whether in the form of additional features of existing tool sets or net new tools, they're going to involve some sort of subscription-based pricing for licenses, features, user count, transaction volumes are all some other factors that really could increase those costs. And then in addition, to realize true value on your return, and being able to access some of those different unique data sources like we talked about, leveraging a highly performant data solution and building on an optimally secure and extensible platform, you'll want to design and invest in a long-term data strategy. So this could include cloud storage, cloud platform fees, and hand in hand with this, as you implement, you'll likely want to invest in either on-staff resources, maybe folks that you hire in-house, or a solution implementer to help ensure your launch is successful and you're properly enabled. So really, this should always include some amount of investment in organizational readiness and enablement of your team's resources. I cannot overstate how crucial to success this is. It's a key risk of organizational culture and lack of expertise. That item, really making sure your team understands how to embrace AI and what it does and what it doesn't do, and really how they can contribute to the betterment of the company through using and optimizing AI solutions, right? They get to interact with it day in, day out. They can contribute in the form of feedback. They may contribute in the form of, hey, these prompts don't even fit my industry. We need a different data source, or we need some different, LLMs or whatever it may be, right? So making sure that your team is engaged and they're part of the solution and not just feeling stepped on or concerned with some other thing, right? Speaking for part of its persona, that's important, right? That organizational mindset shift. And it's really important to making sure it doesn't turn into shelfware, right? So aside from that, really some of the best ways we can mitigate the risks that we listed here are to consider and hold true to a lot of what we talked about in our approach strategy. Revisiting some of those things, identifying specific business value outcomes. That'll ensure you have a framework to keep your engagement focused on outputs that provide material, impactful ROI for your company. And doing that against the backdrop of these investment costs we just discussed, right? That's important. That's important to that ROI analysis, right? And to go with that, evaluate your existing tech stack, as we mentioned. Take advantage of AI solutions that may already be included with your licenses and augment, where needed to pilot into a framework for AI success before making heavy financial investments you're not 100% certain of. And then, of course, two big ones, right? The security and then the customer experience risks. And goes without saying, that's got to remain top of mind. This again goes back to the strategy we've already outlined, ensuring you have a dedicated set of resources to security and product testing throughout. It cannot be an afterthought. This is a part of your ideation. It's a part of your design and build phase. It's a part of the dedicated testing, and you'll get an opportunity again, of course, at the end to do that end-to-end security review and finalize that product documentation. But all along the way, ensuring that these risks are really just simply checkboxes and not actual gotchas. Yeah, I think, and I think, maybe we can pass it over to Rajiv to talk a little bit about compliance and trust.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we know, security of data is a hot topic with AI. And as someone who's designed and executed AI tools for companies of all sizes, including Salesforce and Disney, Rajiv, can you please share a little bit more with how people can vet security and compliance requirements for AI tools that they're considering? There are white papers that exist out there, all of the different things that you've been able to leverage. It'd be great to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. I can totally understand why people still feel cautious about AI, especially when it comes to data security and compliance. When I was implementing AI solutions for the companies, that was the major concern for all the companies, right? About the security and compliance. So what I learned first is start asking the right questions before adoption. So there are total 6 best practices I would say every company should follow. The first is understand what data is collected and how it is being used, right? So we need to understand what data does the tool access, and is that data stored or not? So before adopting any AI tool, you have to ask all these questions to the vendor, right? And the second thing is make sure you check the security and compliance certifications. So that's very important for any company who is providing the AI tools. So these certifications basically tells you they have undergone rigorous training, and then it's according to the industry best practices, right? And the third, I would say, check the security architect, how the data is encrypted and when it is in at rest, and during transition, how the data is whether it's gonna be encrypted properly or not. We have to check all these kind of solutions. Then the fourth, I would say, check also for data processing agreement. That's basically tells you how the data will be handled, stored, and deleted within the system. And the other, I would say, just make sure that see how the model, the model they are providing, right? Whether it has a trained policies or not. So for example, the OpenAI Enterprise that has zero retention usage. It means that it does not retain any data after the session ends. So we have to make sure that all those the model which we are selecting has all those like kind of like policies defined properly, and then also evaluate the AI vendor tracks record, that whether they serve any banks or healthcare or public sector clients, because if they're handling all those kind of clients, it means they are already like meeting all the high security standards. So these are like the basic criterias, I would say, like before adopting any AI tools, we should definitely go for it.
Thank you, Rajiv. And just as a follow-up, something that's top of mind for this audience and anyone really is the audit trails. How can I go back and monitor how agents, for example, are behaving? What kind of information is being exchanged between systems? Are there logs that then they can depend on to provide to auditors down the road, right? We're all still kind of coming around to the requirements around that topic, but it's another hot topic. So while we have you, would you mind sharing a little bit more around that?
Sure. Like usually all the vendors, most of the vendors, I would say, like for example, Salesforce, they do provide audit trails history. So whenever there's an exchange between Agentforce and LLM, or even for the external system, right, when the data is moving from one system to another, it does provide all the details, like how the data is going, what kind of data is visible, how the data is being stored, like all those kind of things you can see in the audit trail. So they do provide all this kind of functionality. So just make sure that if you're selecting any AI tool, to make sure you have that functionality as well.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Great. It's a checkbox and not a gotcha, right? You know? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
All right. Well, now that we've laid out the groundwork for selecting AI tools, defining use cases, and aligning with key business objectives to agentify processes and systems, let's address another hot topic. I think we're like in a hot topics conversation today. So I can tell you that. How can companies accelerate their adoption process while building a roadmap for long-term success?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to give that back to you.
Let's do it. Okay, so yeah, that's fantastic. I'm happy to summarize how everything we've discussed really just kind of naturally lays the foundation for an accelerated approach to realizing AI success. That's what this has all been about. It's like, hey, get comfortable with it, see where things are now, and find ways to use that. Bake security in along the way, and accelerate to AI success, right? At the risk of sounding repetitive, again, remember what we just recapped about how to mitigate risks and costs. Well, they really apply, almost directly to our accelerated approach framework. When you do this, you will be ready to get that MVP launch. So really what this means as a baseline, incorporating what elements of your structured or unstructured data that will drive business value outcomes, right? This means piloting internal agents for your team, whether that's in marketing, sales ops, contracts, finance. Find an agent that will help you accelerate in an impactful way and roll it out for a persona with an intention to improve it over time rather than all in once, right? Being intentional, being thoughtful about the fact that this can be rolled out now. And hey, this isn't going to impact my customer experience if I stand this up around a key business use case for an internal persona, an internal, sales ops user, right? That can leverage this and give me feedback and empower me to make this better over time. And through that, right? Change enablement, organizational readiness, right? Before you know it, you'll be ready for walk phase. So over the course of the weeks or months leading to an initial agent launch, consider additional tools to enhance and scale your data. Similar to what we talked about, access more data sources, remembering the value of unstructured data, and identify a pilot opportunity for a customer agent. We built some demos and accelerators ourselves of just such agents, right? For anyone to see. Find a vendor that can demonstrate the vision. They can relate that to you in terms of the value of the tools like this. Walk through that second release to your customer base. Know that you'll need and want to test, much more thoroughly before your customers see this, but that you can pick a very finite customer use case with proven accelerators that maybe already exist and still move to market in sharper fashion than even just a year ago, right? And then really from this walk phase, you'll find that your agents' personas, and this is probably a hot topic on and staying on that same thread, Amanda, Your agent's personas, the team members they're supporting or augmenting the responsibility of, means your existing personas can be more effective and add more value in other areas. I don't say that lightly. I know this is a topic of concern you'll all grapple with. Will AI replace part of my team? Will it make me less relevant? Again, this is where the power of education and change enablement and organizational readiness are crucial. Your team will soon come to know that they can be a part of the AI success, shaping it for optimal usage, but also using it to be more effective and generate more revenue, higher margins, et cetera. Your team's going to learn that they need to use AI at home. They're not going to just keep bucking the trend, right? Like more is possible than ever before, and it helps me to be more effective and do more. So to be clear, a sales agent is not a replacement for sales. And I say sales agent, right? Like that AI agent. That's not a replacement for sales. It's an accelerator. It's not a replacement for finance or rev ops or sales ops. It's truly a door opener to insights and efficiency that were not possible for that help us extend our reach, that help us extend our gains. And this is really where the AI evolution starts, right? This will be after some time has passed. Your team understands and embraces AI in its many facets. You're going to get a groundswell of feedback and optimization that drive agent improvements to the point that they become more fully autonomous at specific tasks. They're exposed to broader levels of your customer experience, and you truly start to impact not only revenue retention, but revenue growth. So if my message hasn't been clear enough to this point, what I really want to convey is that you should explore AI solutions. Don't wait for massive amounts of budget and dedicated resources. Don't feel the need to boil the ocean. Start where you are now, thoughtfully, of course, with a strategy, but don't keep waiting for the curtain to open. It already is. That's it.
Great advice, Ben. No, we really appreciate that. And, you know, we've curated this content today to really give you an understanding baseline, right? What are all these things that are being thrown out there? Where does it fit in the context of my day-to-day, my tech stack, the role that I play in my organization? So to kind of wrap us up on this topic, yeah, if you go to the next slide, we wanted to provide you with a checklist just to kind of think through. If you were to go back to this deck and share it with your peers or share it within your organization, just think about that roadmap approach that we talked about. The status of your data, obviously you can start where it is, but what you can do to optimize that data and improve on it as you move forward with your AI solutions, because everything always evolves. How you approach the tools, the tasks and definitions of different use cases, the considerations around cost, prioritizing security, of course, so that you can get the ROI, and the approach that you take, finding a trusted partner advisor that can help you with the design, the build, the test, deploy. There are a lot of companies that have incredible talent in-house that maybe have done this before and know how to approach it. Oftentimes, it's great to have just an external perspective, an outside point of view to help you bring all of that together holistically so that it's not just necessarily creating blind spots, right, across departments, like we talked about earlier in the presentation, managing it and thinking about how to provide support going forward, because there might be things that you want to update on your scripts of your agents, for example, as they get smarter, as your business shift, as you introduce new go-to-market revenue streams. There are different ways that you can continue to update that as well. So with that, I think we're going to go to the next slide and open it up to some questions. So just to wrap it up, it's really important to find a trusted advisor, a partner that has hands-on experience, to think about this roadmap that is going to enable success, not just for your customers, but for your internal operations. Because if inside your house, you know, is not working as expected, then it's really hard to provide that satisfaction to your customers as well, and to adopt the value-based approach. So with that, Em, I think I was seeing a few questions come in, so let me know if you have any that you want to tee up.
Yes, actually, I do have one here. This actually, it's funny, as I'm reading this, and I'll read it out loud for everybody, but this is a question that does not surprise me because I actually get this a lot within the community, just like on a DM level when people reach out. Basically, if I boil this down, so I got a great deal on some AI solutions, but I'm still building a team to implement and roll it out. So what type of SI should I look to onboard to support from here? So I think like Rajiv, this is probably perfect for you to answer. But I think this is what I hear a lot is I'm getting these great deals on these AI tools, but like, then what? Like, what do I do? And it's not like, I think some folks are a little more familiar with automation tools. And so, like, thinking about maybe a little bit, are there things that are different that you should consider, and or what type of SI in particular would be able to, should you look for that has this, I'll say, level of expertise in being able to do that?
Yeah. So for SI, right? Like they should have the following qualities, I would say. Like I'm gonna list down some of the qualities which I think like it's really important. The first one is I would say they should be expertise in AI and data space. They should have like kind of like a hands-on experience implementing AI projects, especially in your industry or similar use cases, right? The second, I would say end-to-end support. The SI should be handle everything from initial design and development to integration, testing, deployment, and ongoing maintenance. The cloud platform knowledge, that's also very important. Like if you're working either in AWS or Azure or Salesforce, right, they should have the knowledge of the cloud platform which you're using so that they can integrate with the AI. The fourth one, I would say change management and training. The SI should help with training your staff and managing the change process to ensure smooth adoption. And the last but not the least, I would say collaborative and agile, where choose a vendor who works closely with your internal team in an agile way, allowing knowledge transfer and gradual handover, right? So that's I would say like the main qualities we should, uh, as a check mark, right? Like to see like when we are onboarding some SI.
I love that. I was feverishly writing these down as you were talking, but I think particularly one of the things that I would say is a key or a critical component of that. The first off that you said was around like the data and AI in an industry specific. So they have that industry specific understanding of the use cases. That's hyper critical. The
Yeah.
other one I loved though that you said was around like the change process and training.
Yes, that's very important.
The one yeah, like I hear people want to go through and implement these AI solutions, but then it's sort of like if they're just left like holding the bag and like don't really know what to do or what you don't want them going back to the old process because it feels comfortable. It's something they know, it's something they're used to, but really trying to change the way we think about how those jobs are handled. So like maybe it's changing teams from a processing sort of mentality and transactional to more of like a review type of approach to those same transactions with some kind of AI tool. But I think that's really hard I know it is for me, and I'm just anecdotally talking to folks in the community. That's like a hard sort of transition to make. So I think
hmm
having training around that is really critical to make sure that your teams truly are like fully adopting and embracing that new technology. It is new, right? Like it's new to all of us. So I think that's
It is.
a really
Yeah.
critical piece.
I mean, and adoption is an important aspect of that. You just said it. I mean, I know we said it a couple times, but I mean, line of sight to how is my team using this and how are they providing me feedback, or are they not at all, right? And that's crucial, right? Like, I mean, we baked out this accelerated roadmap for a reason. It starts with a pilot, and you start with a pilot and you quickly start to realize, is there value to it? Is there not? And if there's not, why, right? Like, what can I do to refine it and optimize it? And so that's where the recommendation around, maybe the organization has strong organizational change management already, but they don't understand AI. So make sure there's some hours baked out for that partner or whoever it is that's going to enable their understanding of AI and even enable them to the point where it's like, hey, where do we see users not adopting AI solutions, right? Like that pilot is crucial, but then it's crucial to get that feedback and ensure it evolves, right? And if you're not seeing that happen within 1 month and 3 months, then we need to reset something, right? We need to tweak something, or it could just be a training that's missed, right? It could be a comfort
Right.
level thing. It could be a process thing. It could be any number of things, right? And it just might be a switch that we need to turn on. So
Yep. Spot on. Okay, cool. I love it. I love that one just so well works with all the questions I get.
Hmm.
Okay, so the other question I have here, and like I said, anybody else who has them, feel free to drop them in. But what are examples of AI tools that you guys have, I think this is meant for you guys, that you've implemented, for example, for deal desk or customer support? I guess just I think everybody is just like, what are some of the examples of these AI tools? Rajiv, I'm probably going to throw this back to you, but if
Yeah, for
I'm
sure.
incorrect, let me know.
Happy to answer. Like I can tell you some of the use cases which I have implemented recently for Salesforce. It's for hospitality, automotive, and retail industry. And so for hospitality, what we did, the customers can log in and book hotels based on the preference by using Agentforce. It's from the portal. So they don't need to go to the hotel or,
Mm.
walk in. They can just log in and then they can just book the hotel. And then they can also do self check-in, and they can also upgrade their rooms, and also they can book their experiences like provided by the hotels. So all these kind of features are like through the agent force, so they don't need to basically go in and or stand in a queue or something, right? Like they can just go in and just use agent force and do all the check-in or reservation or anything, right? They can also check the policies. They can I would say they can also, like, even for suppose there was a use case where they were talking, it was something like where I'm just trying to remember. The use case was something like the experience was there, they have some kind of experience, and then they need to see what will be the weather. So they were asking to the customer was asking basically to the AI that what should they bring on, like what kind of clothes they should bring in. So those
Oh,
kind of use cases, like we implemented, where AI can tell you, like, based on the weather, you should bring in all these kind of clothes, or like all this like kind of shoes.
Pack sunscreen.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
bring your
exactly. That's what I
umbrella.
was trying to find. Yes, umbrella, sunscreen. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
That's what we also
yeah.
implemented. And then
Nice.
for automotive, what we implemented, like if the customer lose their car, they can simply ask Agent Force to lock or unlock their car remotely via Agent Force. Then they can also locate their vehicle again, like using Agent Force. If fuel is running low, right? Like then the Agent Force will prompt you the nearby gas station. And also, in case of emergency, the Agent Force can automatically send an SOS alert to emergency contacts using telemetry data from the vehicle. That's what we also implemented. So these are some of the use cases which we implemented for hospitality and industry, and uh, for retail, we also implemented some upsell and cross-sell recommendations. So, like based on customer preference and purchase history, we used Agentforce to add on like extended warranties, service packages, or accessories to increase deal value. Yeah, these are some of the use cases, which is like on my top of my head, like I'm just explaining right now.
Yeah, what I love about each of those, Rajiv, is I can see it's not just helping the internal teams process things faster, but it's also creating paths for revenue growth too, which I think we lose sight of a lot of the time. Like if you're able to, in your first example, if your user experiences, you can upgrade. Well, if it's that easy and you don't have to talk to somebody at the front desk and you see that it's only an extra $59, maybe you're like, okay, or whatever, right? But
Yeah.
that's an easy path for additional revenue. Or, for example, if the experience is so great that you're able to help somebody pack, they're going to continually come back and then they're going to tell other people that, oh my gosh, this is so cool. Like this business helps my overall experience. And then they start telling their friends, or maybe it adds an experience that they wouldn't have otherwise chosen, but it was so easy, they have a path to do something else. So I think we get so caught on like, oh, this is time saving, this is cost saving, AI does all these things that they'll replace, but what it's also doing is providing paths to growth too. So just
100%.
my business mind where it goes. So
That's
anyway,
exactly
Hmm.
it.
Thank you all so much. This was wonderful. I'm excited for those who joined. Thank you so much. We'll get some of these materials out to you and available to you. I'm also super excited for those that weren't able to join to be able to listen on demand and or have access to the framework too. So really appreciate it. Thank you, Ben, Rajiv, Amanda, the rest of the NSG team. Always a pleasure to work with you and love the insights you guys bring. So really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for hosting us, Em. We appreciate it.